2 weeks ago, news reports came out that suggested that Chinese regulators were on the verge of restricted companies' abilities to list overseas. And this, of course, scared the whole market into thinking that the shares of Alibaba would get delisted and thus the share price collapsed. After looking at all of that, I made a video discussing how a Chinese regulator came out and said that the reports of a ban of companies using the VIE structure were completely wrong, aka it was all alleged FUD. In fact, the work seemed to be so good on that I actually ended up getting a shout out by a larger YouTuber, which really made my day. And now guys, we got some more news as the CRSC just doubled down with new comments on their relations with the US. And before we dig into it, please don't forget to smash that like button. You're watching More Money, let's get it. Alright guys, it's Christmas season and I know your time is valuable, so without wasting any of it, let's get right into the story. On December 16th, the CRSC, which I believe stands for the Chinese Security Regulatory Commission, issued a press release, which I will link in the description below, where they were asked about a recently issued US report in accordance with the Holding Foreign Companies Accountable Act that stated that over 60 PCAOB registered public accounting firms headquartered in China cannot be completely inspected or investigated. Now, taking it a step back here, for those of you who don't know what the PCAOB is, that's a US regulatory body which audits the auditors to make sure that they are complying with the best practices. And of course, I'm very familiar with the PCAOB because I used to work for a Big Four in audit. Okay, so if the PCAOB just came out and said that they can't audit public accounting firms headquartered in China, I think that's a very big issue. I believe that we need fairness and openness in our financial markets, so I share the concern of the PCAOB. And then when it came to the CRSC's clapback, I think the interesting thing is the language that the CRSC spokesperson used, because they stated that the regulatory authorities in China stick to openness and cooperation when dealing with international affairs. And I was blown away with the language used next, because the spokesperson then went on to say that they respect the PCAOB's mandate, which of course is to oversee the quality of audits, and they believe that it's consistent with international norms. So essentially they are 100% on board with the PCAOB's mission, and they understand why the US is pushing so hard on this. Now, they did throw some shade, as they did state that they have proposed solutions to the US regulators on the possibility of joint inspections to address the remaining issues of supervisory and enforcement cooperation. And they don't think that the PCAOB's report fully reflects that in an objective manner. So it sounds like they're just saying, hey, if you guys want to audit these auditors, come on in. You can look at them while we're in the room as well. I don't know how comfortable the US would be with that. I think the US would want full autonomy over their audits. I think that's kind of the push and pull that's happening right now, and we'll see where it lands. And then to tie a bow on it for a happy ending, the spokesperson went on to say that they are currently having dialogues on audit oversight cooperation between the Chinese and US regulators, and these discussions have yielded positive results. They ultimately do believe that regulators from both sides will be able to find a solution to satisfy regulatory mandates on both sides. So once again, this reinforces my stance in the prior videos that there's just a lot of unnecessary FUD surrounding the US and China relations. The Chinese regulators have made it abundantly clear that they are open and willing to work with the US, and discussions are ongoing and they are positive. That being the case, I do feel that the US would have a problem with China standing over their shoulders as they're reviewing the Chinese public accounting companies. So I do see that there is an issue here that could potentially not be resolved, but I'm really hoping that it does. Of course, you can argue that I'm being optimistic or naive in my opinion when I say that I do believe that the solution can be worked out, but that's just where I stand right now. Now, moving on from this, every year Alibaba hosts a very informative investor day. Check out my playlist where I'm covering that event, and you can get to that right here.